Imagine this. You open your eyes in a world ruled by secrets you've never learned. Every step you take, every word you speak, every bite of food you reach for is controlled by rules older than memory itself. In this world, even bread has laws, and the wrong bow to the wrong person at the wrong time could cost you everything. Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where life wasn't just hard, it was carefully controlled. A world where the tiniest mistake could mark you as guilty. Forget modern freedom. Picture narrow streets before sunrise, cold stone floors, and bells that tell you when to wake, when to work, when to pray, and even when you're allowed to speak. These weren't suggestions, they were rules. Strict, strange, and often dangerous. Before we start, hit like and subscribe, only if you enjoy these quiet, immersive journeys into the past. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always amazing how people across the world, from midnight rooms to early morning kitchens, listen together as history drifts back to life. So get comfortable, let the lights fade, pull your blanket up, breathe slowly, and step into a world where every choice, every gesture, every moment was shaped by rules you've never heard of. Your morning in the Middle Ages is about to begin. You open your eyes again, slowly this time. The light is dim, grey, the kind of morning where the sun hasn't fully arrived yet. The floor beneath you is cold. Not the comfortable cold of a tiled room, but the deep cold of stone that has never known warmth. You push yourself upright, and as you breathe, you taste smoke in the air. Not pleasant smoke, the heavy kind that lingers from last night's fire, mixed with damp air and the scent of wool that never quite dries. Outside, you hear movement, soft, rushed. People already beginning their day long before you found your balance. Someone passes your door, then another, and then a firm knocking makes you jump. A voice calls your name, impatient and sharp, as if you're already breaking a rule you didn't know existed. You stand, still unsure of where you are, and open the wooden door. The person outside barely looks at you. They simply say that you're late, that the Lord has already woken, which means you should have been awake long before. You try to speak, but they lift a hand to silence you. Another rule: don't talk out of turn. As you step into the narrow street, the morning is alive with purpose. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do. You don't. Not yet. You notice something strange. No one is eating. Not a crumb, not a sip. Because here, you can't eat until the Lord has eaten. That rule alone would break most people today. You walk a little farther and see a boy, hardly older than 12, wearing colors finer than anything around you. People bow to him. You don't understand why at first. Then it hits you. His family outranks yours. Here, age means nothing. Rank means everything. And failing to bow could be seen as an insult, or worse. You take another step, only to be stopped again. You're told that you cannot leave the village unless you have written permission. Not spoken permission, not a promise. A physical document, sealed and approved. Without it, even wandering beyond the fields is a punishable act. As the morning light strengthens, the rules become clearer, even though no one explains them. People pass one another in an order you can't quite decode. Clothing reveals everything. Colors you're allowed to wear, fabrics you're not, shoes that signal wealth or poverty or your place in the world. You notice how carefully everyone avoids certain gestures. No pointing, no speaking too loudly, no touching bread before the head of the household lifts theirs. And every time a bell rings, everyone pauses, listens, and adjusts their behavior. You begin to understand that time itself belongs to the church here. The rhythm of the day isn't yours. it's theirs. Even work follows rules you never imagined. You work with the sun, not against it. You rise when it rises. You stop when it sets. And if you break the curfew, intentionally or not, there will be no explanation accepted, only consequence. You continue walking through the village, feeling the weight of eyes on you. Not hostile, not unkind, just aware. Everyone is watching to make sure you know the unspoken laws they've followed all their lives. You pass a baker's stall and pause, drawn by the smell of fresh bread. But even here, something is different. Bread isn't just bread. It's measured, weighed, regulated. You hear two people whispering about a man punished last month because his loaves were too small, too light. Someone else was fined because theirs were too large, too heavy. Bread that didn't match the law was a crime. You think of modern life, of choices, of freedom, and it becomes clear that none of it exists here. Everything is controlled. Everything is watched. Everything is ruled. You stop walking when you see a small group gathered by the market square. Their voices are low, tight with worry. You don't want to stare, but something draws you in. A man stands in the center, holding a loaf of bread in both hands. A plain loaf, nothing unusual about it at first glance. But the people around him are discussing the punishment he received. They say his bread failed the test. It didn't meet the town standard. It was too airy in the center, too light in weight. And because it didn't meet the rule, he was fined more than he could afford. His reputation was damaged. Some even say he may lose his place in the guild. You listen quietly, heart tightening. A single mistake, a loaf too light, a loaf too heavy, could change someone's entire life. In this world, perfection isn't a luxury. It's survival. The rules don't bend. The rules don't wait. The rules don't care that you're new. As you realize this, the world around you begins to slow. The crowded square softens. The voices fade into calm murmurs. The harsh morning light becomes steady and warm, like a story settling into its rhythm. And tonight, we'll walk through every strange rule that shaped medieval life. Slowly, gently, one curious detail at a time. As the morning settles, you begin noticing the smallest details. The way people greet one another isn't casual. It's scripted, almost like a quiet performance everyone knows by heart. You watch as two villagers meet at a crossroads. One lowers his head first. The other responds with a short nod. No one smiles too widely. No one touches unless they're close family. A greeting isn't about warmth. It's about respect and position. When you try to mimic them, you can feel how delicate the exchange is. Too much enthusiasm, and you seem strange. Too little, and you seem rude. Here, the safest path is always somewhere in the middle. You continue walking, mindful of every move. You quickly learn that even gestures have consequences. Pointing is frowned upon. It's considered crude, even disrespectful. Whistling can mark you as childish or thoughtless. Laughing too loudly is suspicious. And touching someone without permission, even lightly, is seen as a serious breach of manners. People carry themselves with a kind of quiet caution, a calmness shaped not by personality but by expectations. The rules aren't written down anywhere, but everyone knows them. Everyone except you. You find yourself watching how villagers treat those of higher status, not with fear exactly, but with a steady, practiced deference. Farmers pause when the steward walks by. Craftsmen remove their caps. Children step aside for elders, and servants bow to noble families as naturally as breathing. It becomes clear that respect isn't earned here. It's a sign. You respect someone because the world says you must. You bow because you were born into the role of bowing. And though no one says it aloud, you can feel how rigid the invisible lines are. You stay in your place. Everyone stays in theirs. As the day grows brighter, you notice how often silence fills the spaces between people. Not uncomfortable silence, just expected. Servants speak only when spoken to. Children are hushed unless asked a question. And anyone in the presence of a noble chooses their words with great care, as if each sentence must be weighed before it leaves the tongue. You feel the quietness pull you in, making your thoughts softer, your steps slower. In this world, silence is its own kind of obedience. You pause near a long wooden bench outside a small hall where villagers gather. Even seating follows strict order. The highest ranking person sits closest to the fire. The next sits beside them. Lower ranks sit farther away, and the lowest? They stand, or they sit on the floor. No one questions this. No one negotiates. These small, almost invisible rules determine where you rest, where you wait, and how comfortable you're allowed to be. Later, you see a visitor arrive from a neighboring village. He stands politely at the threshold of a home and does not enter until he's invited. And even once inside, he keeps his hood on until the host gestures for him to remove it. Hospitality is a sacred ritual here, full of tiny steps meant to show respect, humility, and trust. A guest doesn't speak until offered food. They don't sit until their host tells them where. Everything follows an order older than the house itself. In this life, the way you treat a guest isn't just courtesy, it's law. Refusing hospitality to a traveler in need can damage your reputation or anger your neighbors. But being overly welcoming can be risky too. You don't know their status, their intentions, or their alliances. So people welcome visitors carefully, with quiet warmth but cautious eyes, a cup of ale, a place by the fire, a single night of rest, enough to show good faith, but not enough to be taken advantage of. As the hours pass, the church bell rings again. Its sound cuts through the village like a thread pulling every life into alignment. When it calls, people pause. Some bow their heads, some whisper short prayers, others simply wait for the moment to pass. Even if you're in the middle of work, or speaking, or walking down a path, the bell decides. It shapes the rhythm of life with quiet authority. It marks dawn, midday, evening, and the times when behavior must change. You wander toward the market and notice how orderly everything is, even without signs or enforcement standing nearby. Sellers call out politely. Buyers examine goods but never touch without permission. Bargaining is allowed, but only within reason. Too little, and you seem naive. Too much, and you seem disrespectful. There is a flow to the place, a hum of voices, the shuffle of feet, the stillness of those waiting their turn. Even here, social rules keep the peace, guiding every exchange. As the day moves on, you hear villagers discussing the coming Sunday. Their voices grow softer. Sunday rules are different, stricter, more sacred. Work is forbidden except in emergencies. Loud laughter is discouraged. Travel is limited. People dress differently, speak differently, and behave with quiet reverence. Even the children know these rules by heart. They move more gently, speak more softly, and as you listen, you begin to sense how deeply life here is shaped by ritual, a constant rhythm of respect, obedience, and tradition. You breathe slowly, letting the pace of this world settle into you, as if the rules themselves are guiding your thoughts into calm. As the morning stretches toward midday, the scent of cooking begins to drift through the village. It's soft at first. Wood smoke, warm grain, a hint of herbs carried by the breeze. You follow it without thinking, feeling your stomach tighten. But even hunger obeys rules here. You don't eat when you want to. You eat when you're allowed. Every home cooks at a slightly different pace, yet every person waits for the same signal, the meal of the lord or head of the household. Only after they've eaten may everyone else begin. The order is as old as the land itself. You watch as the village baker places loaves onto a wooden board. They all look similar, carefully shaped, evenly baked, precise in weight. None of this is accidental. Bread is controlled by strict laws. The size, the ingredients, even the price. If prices rise too high, it becomes a crime. If loaves are too light, it becomes a crime. Bread is life here, and life must follow the law. The baker measures each loaf with a seriousness you've never seen before, as if he holds not just dough, but his reputation in his hands. You notice quickly that diets are not equal in this world. What you're allowed to eat depends entirely on your status. Peasants eat dark bread, thick soups, cabbage, and whatever herbs they can grow. Meat is rare, save for festivals or borrowed from generosity. Nobles, however, dine on dishes you only see glimpses of. Roasted meats, spiced wines, sweet pastries, bright fruits brought in from distant lands. Their tables reflect their status, just as their clothing does. And no one questions this divide. It is simply the way things are. You sit outside and watch a family prepare for their meal. Before anyone takes a bite, the father washes his hands. The mother bows her head. The children wait, still as stones, for the signal to begin. Eating is not rushed here. It's a small ritual of gratitude and order. Even the way they hold their bread matters. No tearing it open with wild hands, no crumbs wasted. Crumbs are collected carefully, saved for soup, for animals, or for anyone who needs them. Waste is almost unthinkable. When you imagine nobles eating, you might picture grand feasts, loud, free, and overflowing. But even their tables are guided by rules. Guests eat only when the highest-ranking person lifts their cup. Bread is placed on the table in a specific direction. Knives aren't shared loosely, and every pause in conversation is intentional. People eat slowly, with soft hands, never looking too eager. To appear hungry is to appear poor. To appear too relaxed is to appear disrespectful. The balance is delicate. You then realize something else. There are no forks, not yet. People eat with knives, spoons, and their fingers. But even fingers follow rules. Only certain fingers touch certain foods. Anything greasy is wrapped in bread before being lifted, and wiping your hands on your clothing is unthinkable. Instead, you wipe them on a shared cloth, or on the crust of stale bread. Every action is quiet, intentional, and filled with centuries of habit. You reach for a cup of water someone offers you, only to see them gently shake their head. Water is not something you drink freely. Wells can be contaminated. Streams may carry illness. Instead, most people drink ale, weak, mild, and brewed specifically to be safer than water. It tastes simple, softer than modern drinks, and children drink it too. Not for indulgence, but for survival. You watch a woman carefully scrape the last bits of a stew pot into a small bowl. Nothing is discarded. Every leaf, every grain, every drop matters. Food isn't guaranteed here. A poor harvest or harsh winter can mean hunger. even for the most diligent families. Waste is not just frowned upon, it's dangerous. To waste food is to disrespect the work that went into it and the life that depends on it. As the day continues, you hear villagers mention fasting days. These are strict, marked on the church calendar, and they come more often than you expect. On fasting days, meals are smaller. Meat is forbidden. Certain foods are reserved for specific seasons. No one questions these rules. They shape the year, creating a rhythm of restraint and celebration. People adjust their diets not by choice, but by obedience. Depending on the time of year, whole categories of food become forbidden. Meat disappears during Lent. Dairy may be restricted. Certain animals are allowed only for certain classes. These restrictions aren't just spiritual, they're practical. They protect dwindling supplies, stretch out provisions, and keep communities aligned under the same expectations. You notice that people do not snack, or graze, or wander into kitchens as you might today. Meals happen at fixed times, one in the late morning, another near sunset. That's it. No midnight eating, no casual nibbling. Food is fuel, but it's also order. The body learns to adapt to long stretches without eating, just as the mind learns to accept the quiet patience of waiting. During one midday meal, you sit near a family who barely speaks as they eat, not out of coldness, but out of custom. Meals are often eaten in calm silence. Talking too much while eating is seen as messy, even disrespectful. So they eat slowly, quietly, their minds on their work, their blessings, their rules. Far across the village, a noble household enjoys a more luxurious meal. Servants move gracefully around the table, placing dishes in a precise order. No one reaches across someone else. No one looks directly at the highest ranking person unless addressed. You notice the soft elegance of it all, a controlled performance of wealth, power, and etiquette. As the hour closes, you begin to understand the rule that lies beneath every other rule of food. Meals keep the world stable. They reinforce status, preserve resources, and maintain peace. And as you watch the families finish their meals and return to their work, the world feels quieter, softer, as if the rules themselves are guiding the afternoon into calm. As the afternoon light softens, you begin noticing the clothing around you, not the colors at first or the stitching, but the way people carry themselves in their garments. Every outfit feels intentional, chosen not for comfort or expression, but because the world expects it. You watch a woman adjust her cloak, not for warmth, but to ensure the fabric drapes exactly as it should. A man ties his belt with practiced care, making sure the knot sits at the correct angle. Clothing here is more than what you wear, it is who you are. You soon realize that clothing reveals status before anyone speaks. Rich fabrics belong only to the wealthy. Simple wool belongs to peasants. Even the cut of a tunic or the length of a sleeve signals rank. A merchant might wear muted colors with fine stitching. A laborer wears earth tones, coarse and sturdy. No one tries to blur these lines. They can't. Sumptuary laws make sure of that. If you wear something above your station, even accidentally, you could be fined, shamed, or ordered to remove the garment in public. The village keeps watch. Everyone understands the rules. Colors speak even louder than fabric. Blues and reds are precious, costly, and reserved for those with wealth or noble ties. Deep green might belong to a merchant. Bright yellow can mark a specific trade. But peasants wear the colors of earth. Browns mixed with grays, and the faint, faded greens of plant-dyed cloth. You begin to notice how carefully color is managed. A child wearing a bright tone draws attention, not admiration. A laborer wearing fine dyes would cause whispers that spread faster than fire. Every shade has meaning here. You pass a group of workers returning from the fields. Their clothing is practical, sturdy wool, patched elbows, hems worn thin. No silk, no velvet, no rare dyes. Even if they could afford such things, they are forbidden from wearing them. In this world, clothing is a language, and the peasants speak the simplest dialect, not out of choice, but out of centuries of enforced tradition. Their garments are meant to show humility, duty, and belonging. Then you notice the shoes. The wealthy walk with light, soft steps. Their shoes made from finer leather, shaped by practiced hands. Merchants wear sturdy, well-crafted soles built for long travel. But peasants? Many walk barefoot in warmer seasons, their feet hardened by years of work. Shoes say more than any introduction. One look tells you where someone belongs. Even the shape of the toe or the height of the ankle can reveal occupation, rank, and wealth. And everyone around you can read these details instantly. You notice the women of the village adjusting their head coverings as they walk. Married women cover their hair completely. Unmarried women braid theirs in certain patterns. A widow wears darker tones, looser fabrics, and modest veils. Nothing is random. Clothing expresses age, marital status, family reputation. A woman who dresses outside her expected role invites judgment, not just for herself, but for her entire household. The rules protect order, but they also confine. Even something as simple as hair has its own expectations. You watch as women tuck loose strands behind their veils, making sure nothing suggests rebellion or vanity. Men keep their hair trimmed according to their trade, shorter for farmers, slightly longer for craftsmen, carefully groomed for those with higher status. Modesty shapes everything, not through pressure, but through tradition woven into each family, passed down like an unwritten script everyone knows. As you walk farther, a splash of bright color catches your eye. A young man wearing a red-toned cloak far richer than anything else in the village. Heads turn. People stare, not admiringly, but with quiet suspicion. Too much brightness can be seen as arrogance, a challenge to order. Colors carry weight, and wearing the wrong one can send whispers rippling through the entire community. A single garment can change how people treat you. Toward the end of the afternoon, you hear villagers talk about preparing their clothing for Sunday. It's the only day when even peasants wear their best. Clean tunics, freshly washed veils, cloaks brushed free of dust. Not fashionable, but respectful. Sunday clothing isn't about beauty. It's about presenting yourself with dignity before the community. As you watch them tend to their garments with slow, careful hands, the rhythm of medieval life settles even deeper around you. Quiet, steady, shaped by timeless rules few ever dared to break. As the afternoon light softens, you begin noticing the clothing around you. Not the colors at first, or the stitching, but the way people carry themselves in their garments. Every outfit feels intentional, chosen not for comfort or expression, but because the world expects it. You watch a woman adjust her cloak, not for warmth, but to ensure the fabric drapes exactly as it should. A man ties his belt with practiced care, making sure the knot sits at the correct angle. Clothing here is more than what you wear. It is who you are. You soon realize that clothing reveals status before anyone speaks. Rich fabrics belong only to the wealthy. Simple wool belongs to peasants. Even the cut of a tunic or the length of a sleeve signals rank. A merchant might wear muted colors with fine stitching. A laborer wears earth tones, coarse and sturdy. No one tries to blur these lines. They can't. Sumptuary laws make sure of that. If you wear something above your station, even accidentally, you could be fined, shamed, or ordered to remove the garment in public. The village keeps watch. Everyone understands the rules. Colors speak even louder than fabric. Blues and reds are precious, costly, and reserved for those with wealth or noble ties. Deep green might belong to a merchant. Bright yellow can mark a specific trade. But peasants wear the colors of earth, browns, greys, and faint faded greens from plant dyes. You begin to notice how carefully color is managed. A child wearing a bright tone draws attention, not admiration. A laborer wearing fine dyes would cause whispers that spread faster than fire. Every shade has meaning here. You pass a group of workers returning from the fields. Their clothing is practical. Sturdy wool, patched elbows, hems worn thin. No silk, no velvet, no rare dyes. Even if they could afford such things, they are forbidden from wearing them. In this world, clothing is a language, and the peasants speak the simplest dialect, not out of choice, but out of centuries of enforced tradition. Their garments are meant to show humility, duty, and belonging. Then you notice the shoes. The wealthy walk with light, soft steps. Their shoes made from finer leather, shaped by practiced hands. Merchants wear sturdy, well-crafted soles built for long travel, but peasants often walk barefoot in warmer seasons, their feet hardened by years of work. Shoes say more than any introduction. One look tells you where someone belongs. Even the shape of the toe or the height of the ankle can reveal occupation, rank, and wealth. And everyone around you can read these details instantly. You notice the women of the village adjusting their head coverings as they walk. Married women cover their hair completely. Unmarried women braid theirs in certain patterns. A widow wears darker tones, looser fabrics, and modest veils. Nothing is random. Clothing expresses age, marital status, and family reputation. A woman who dresses outside her expected role invites judgment, not just for herself, but for her entire household. The rules protect order, but they also confine. Even something as simple as hair has its own expectations. You watch as women tuck loose strands behind their veils, making sure nothing suggests rebellion or vanity. Men keep their hair trimmed according to their trade, shorter for farmers, slightly longer for craftsmen, carefully groomed for those with higher status. Modesty shapes everything, not through pressure, but through tradition woven into each family, passed down like an unwritten script everyone knows. As you walk farther, a splash of bright color catches your eye. A young man wearing a red-toned cloak far richer than anything else in the village. Heads turn, people stare, not admiringly, but with quiet suspicion. Too much brightness can be seen as arrogance, a challenge to order. Colors carry weight, and wearing the wrong one can send whispers rippling through the entire community. A single garment can change how people treat you. Toward the end of the afternoon, you hear villagers talk about preparing their clothing for Sunday. It's the one day when even peasants wear their best. Clean tunics, freshly washed veils, cloaks brushed free of dust. Not fashionable, but respectful. Sunday clothing isn't about beauty. It's about presenting yourself with dignity before the community. As you watch them tend to their garments with slow, careful hands, the rhythm of medieval life settles even deeper around you, quiet, steady, shaped by timeless rules few ever dared to break. As the afternoon deepens, you wander farther from the center of the village. The narrow pathways begin to widen, stretching into quiet dirt roads lined with simple cottages. Each home stands close to the next, not out of luxury, but necessity. Protection through proximity. Every path has its own rule. Some paths are for carts. Some are only for those on foot. And the central path is always kept clear, swept by the villagers each morning. Order is everywhere, even in the dust beneath your feet. You stop near a wooden signpost, worn smooth by weather and time. A villager tells you that once the sun begins to set, you must be indoors. The curfew is strict. Fires are dimmed, doors are barred, streets fall silent. This rule isn't just tradition, it's safety. In the dark, thieves roam, accidents happen, and without lanterns or guards on every corner, night is a world of its own. Curfew isn't a suggestion, it's survival. As you continue walking, you notice small iron buckets placed outside the homes, filled with sand and water. Every household is required to keep them ready. Fire is the greatest danger here. A single spark, a candle left too long, can turn the entire village into ash. You hear stories of past fires, flames moving faster than people could shout warnings, houses collapsing before anyone could save them. So after dark, hearths are smothered carefully, and candles burn only under strict watch. The path leads you back toward the market square, now calmer than in the morning. Merchants begin packing their wares with methodical precision. No one can sell after the designated hour. No one can display goods on certain feast days. And no one may shout louder than the steward permits. The market exists under a quiet balance, part commerce, part ritual. Every exchange must be fair. Every scale must be honest. Anyone caught cheating risks public shame or losing the right to sell. A man passing through the gates catches your attention. Travelers are rare here, and they're treated with a blend of curiosity and caution. Before entering, he stops at the gatekeeper's marker stone, a sign of respect. The villagers watch closely, but do not approach. Visitors must announce themselves, explain their business, and leave before nightfall unless invited by someone trustworthy. Strangers bring stories, but they also bring risk. As you walk through the lanes, you notice how people move around each other with quiet choreography. Those carrying tools walk on the right side. Those carrying freshly baked goods walk on the left. And when a rider on horseback approaches, everyone steps aside without hesitation. Even greetings follow spatial rules. You don't stand too close. You don't block a doorway. You don't stop by a window unless invited. Respect is measured in distance as much as in words. A little farther down the road, signs of skilled craftsmen emerge. The leather worker's shop, the cooper's yard, the blacksmith's forge. These trades are bound by guild rules, strict and deeply rooted. Only those who have trained for years can open a workshop. Only those approved by guild masters may sell their craft. Guilds control prices, quality, apprenticeships, and even who is allowed to work. They are both protectors and gatekeepers, shaping the economy with quiet authority. As the day leans into evening, you notice how carefully waste is handled. People do not throw anything into the streets without thought. Waste is carried to designated pits outside the village. Water is dumped at certain times. Even animals have rules guiding where they graze, where they sleep, and where they leave their traces. These rules keep sickness at bay, or at least try to. They keep the village livable, orderly, and safe. And as you take a slow breath, you feel the quiet rhythm of this world settle deeper. A life defined not by chaos, but by careful, steady structure. As the afternoon softens into a gold-colored haze, you begin to notice the rhythm of work around you. It isn't rushed, it isn't frantic, but it is constant. Every person moves with intention, as if their tasks were chosen centuries before they were born. Work is not just a responsibility here. It is an inherited duty. Children carry small baskets. Adults haul sacks of grain. The elderly mend nets, repair tools, or sort herbs. Everyone contributes, each according to the rules that shape their days. You remember the morning, how the knocking at your door came before dawn. This is normal here. People rise with the first hint of light, not because they prefer it, but because the rule is simple. Work begins when the sun begins. The steward of the village enforces it. The church bells reinforce it. Some families rise even earlier, warming yesterday's bread, preparing tools, offering short prayers for strength. The day is long, and wasting daylight is nearly a sin. You watch a young boy repairing a fence, his movements careful and practiced. He isn't apprenticed. He isn't choosing a career. He is simply doing the work his father did before him. In this world, you don't choose your profession. Your birth does. A blacksmith's son becomes a blacksmith. A farmer's daughter grows up tending fields. A shepherd's family keeps sheep for generations. Changing trades is possible, but rare, and almost always requires permission from a lord or guild. In the manor nearby, servants move with near-silent coordination. They follow rules far stricter than the villagers outside. Servants must never sit in the presence of their masters. They speak only when spoken to. They keep their eyes lowered as a sign of obedience. Every action has purpose: stirring the pot, sweeping the floors, watching the fire. The rules ensure the household runs smoothly, and breaking them risks your position or your shelter. Out in the fields, laborers follow a different set of expectations. They work under the open sky, guided by the movement of clouds and sun. Tools must be returned to their exact place each evening. Furrows must be straight. Animals must be fed in a particular order. There is pride in this work, even if it is hard. The rules create consistency, routine, and a sense of belonging. And though the tasks are demanding, they also provide a quiet, steady rhythm that becomes familiar. The villagers tell you that work changes dramatically with the seasons. In summer, days are long and exhausting. Fields must be sown, tended, harvested. The rules require more hands, more hours, more movement. But in winter, work becomes gentler, slower. People mend clothing. They twist rope, carve wood, patch walls. They prepare for the harshest months, for nights when cold sinks through stone. Winter rules allow more rest, but also more caution. Fires must be tended. Food must be rationed. And no one travels far unless absolutely necessary. You learn that not every day is meant for work. Holy days, scattered throughout the year, bring pauses in the routine. On these days, labor stops at sunrise. Tools are set aside. People attend services, visit neighbors, share simple meals. But even holy days have rules. No loud celebrations, no unnecessary travel, no disruptive tasks. Rest is allowed, but rest too must be respectful. Certain tasks can only be done during certain months. Cutting timber, for example, is reserved for winter. When sap retreats into the trunk, fishing has its seasons. Hunting has its limits. Gathering herbs for healing must be done when the moon is a particular shape. People follow these rules naturally, as though the land itself whispers the schedule. As the village settles into the last hours of daylight, you see an apprentice sweeping the steps of the blacksmith shop. He works without complaint, knowing his apprenticeship will last years, but he takes pride in the future it promises. A trade, a place, a role he will fulfill for the rest of his life. And in that moment, you begin to understand the heart of medieval work. It isn't just labor, it is identity. A steady path, shaped by generations, guided by tradition, and protected by rules older than memory. As the day drifts toward evening, the church bell rings again, deeper and slower than before. The sound rolls across the fields, across the roofs, across the quiet lanes. People stop where they stand. Some bow their heads, some fold their hands. Others simply pause, letting the sound move through them. The bell does not ask, it commands. It marks time, but it also marks behavior, calling everyone to remember the rules that shape their days and the ones that shape their souls. You soon realize that the church decides not only the hours of the day, but the shape of the year itself. Every feast, every fast, every pause in work is dictated by a carefully kept calendar. Villagers speak of the months not by their seasons, but by holy observances, saints' days, feast days, quiet days, days of penance. Life moves in a gentle cycle. Work, prayer, rest, reflection. And people follow this rhythm with calm acceptance, as if it were as natural as the turning of the earth. Sunday is the day the entire village shifts its breath. No loud voices, no heavy work, no travelling unless absolutely required. Tools are put away, carts are left untouched. Even animals sense the stillness, guided by the slower footsteps of their caretakers. Families prepare their simplest clothing, smoothing creases, dusting off cloaks, tying veils neatly. On Sundays, humility is more important than appearance. People gather in quiet groups outside the church door, waiting for the right moment to enter. Not before the steward, not before the elders, not before the families of higher rank. When you step inside the church, the air feels different, cooler, stiller, heavy with candle smoke and centuries of whispered prayers. People sit in specific places, not chosen, but assigned by tradition. Nobles closest to the front, merchants in the middle, farmers and labourers toward the back, and servants near the walls, standing if space is scarce. Silence stretches between everyone, but it isn't empty. It's full of the weight of belief, the weight of duty, and the rules that bind the community together. Later, a villager explains the rules of confession to you. It is required, not asked for politely. People must confess regularly. They must admit their faults, their doubts, their failures, not just out of fear, but out of habit, a cleansing woven into their spiritual lives. Even the smallest sins must be spoken. Harsh words, missed prayers, idle thoughts. And once confessed, they must be corrected through penance, a candle lit, a prayer repeated, a small act of humility performed quietly. You pass a small group of women discussing the upcoming marriage of a young couple. Their voices are soft, reverent. Marriage isn't just love here. It's a contract of families, a sacred agreement bound by spiritual law. Couples must seek approval. They must promise obedience, faithfulness, and cooperation. Weddings take place within strict boundaries. Certain days of the year are forbidden. Certain times of day are required. And the marriage bed has its own rules, spoken not loudly, but passed down quietly through generations. Farther down the road, you see villagers repairing a small wooden cross. They speak gently, about a burial planned for the next morning. Funerals follow an order as old as memory. The body is washed, wrapped, and prayed over. Bells ring in slow patterns to guide the soul into rest. No one walks ahead of the procession except the priest. No one speaks unless necessary. People carry flowers, herbs, or small tokens. Rosemary for remembrance, lavender for peace, yarrow for protection. Even grief follows rules. Even sorrow has structure. You sit on a low stone wall as children pass by, their steps careful, their hands folded around small wooden toys. Children are taught the rules early: how to greet elders, how to be silent in church, how to show respect to parents and priests. They learn prayers before they learn letters. They learn obedience before they learn independence. Their world is shaped gently but firmly, preparing them for the roles they will one day fill. A traveler resting by the road tells you of a distant shrine, visited by pilgrims seeking healing or forgiveness. Pilgrimages have rules too. You must travel humbly. You must carry only what you need. You must not rush nor stop for unnecessary comforts. A pilgrimage is a journey of the spirit, not the body. A slow walk toward understanding, marked by blisters, quiet prayers, and steps taken beneath the open sky. As evening shadows stretch long across the village, you hear whispers of customs that are not written in any book. Rules whispered by grandmothers, by shepherds, by travelers who swear they've seen things others would doubt. Don't sweep after sunset. Don't leave shoes upside down. Don't whistle near the woods at night. These are superstitions, yes, but they hold the same power as laws. Breaking them brings worry. Observing them brings comfort. The more time you spend here, the more you understand that the strongest rules are the ones no one speaks aloud. The way people look down when passing the graveyard. The way they touch the doorframe before entering their homes. The way they avoid certain paths after dusk. These habits have no punishments attached, yet everyone follows them. Because in a world full of uncertainty, small rituals create safety, even if only in the heart. As the last light fades and villages begin closing their shutters, you feel the quiet embrace of the evening settle around you. The rules that guided the day now slow into softer rhythms. Prayer, rest, reflection. And as you breathe in the cool night air, you understand that these ancient rules, strange, rigid, and beautiful in their own way, have shaped not just the world you've walked through, but the calm that now settles gently across your mind. As the sun sinks behind the distant hills, a soft grey-blue settles over the village. Shapes blur. Footsteps quiet. The world feels wrapped in a heavy wool blanket. People finish their final tasks of the day with slow, practiced movements, as if the darkness itself has rules no one dares to disturb. Doors close one by one. Curtains are drawn. Livestock is guided into pens. Evening here isn't a time of activity. It's a time of gentleness, a time of reflection. The church bell rings once more, softer now, as if respectful of the approaching night. Its sound drifts through the air like a final reminder. The day has ended, and with it, the work, the noise, the decisions. After this bell, conversations turn quieter. Arguments are set aside. Even laughter softens. There's a calm acceptance that the night belongs not to people, but to spirits, to faith, and to rules older than memory. Inside each cottage, people sit by their fading hearths, reciting prayers passed down through countless generations. Some whisper them, some speak them softly, others simply bow their heads in silence. letting their thoughts settle like dust on a still floor. These prayers are simple, gentle words meant to guide hearts into rest. Words of gratitude. Words asking for protection through the night. Words reminding villagers that darkness is not to be feared, as long as the proper rituals are observed. Every home keeps a small ember glowing in the hearth. Not a flame, just a faint glow, barely alive. Extinguishing it completely is considered unlucky. It invites cold, misfortune, or wandering spirits. So families protect that ember with care, letting it rest under ash so it can awaken again with morning's light. It is a tiny act of faith, a belief that warmth, like hope, must never be allowed to die entirely. Once the homes settle into silence, the village feels almost suspended in time. A few figures move through the lanes, the night watch. Their steps are slow and steady. They carry lanterns shielded from the wind, casting dim light across stone walls. Their presence is comforting. They are reminders that even in darkness, order remains. They ensure curfew is respected, fires are safe, and no strange shadows linger where they shouldn't. Villagers believe that the doorway of a home, the threshold, must never be crossed without purpose after dark. Stepping outside invites unknown dangers. Stepping inside too quickly invites spirits that cling to travelers. So when someone must return home late, they pause at the threshold. They whisper a short prayer. They touch the wooden frame. Only then do they step inside. This simple ritual feels as natural as breathing. As you sit near a small cottage, you overhear older villagers speaking in hushed tones about things they've seen. Flickers of light in the woods, footsteps when no one is there, shapes moving at the edge of fields. They do not tell these stories to frighten, but to teach, to remind the younger ones that the night has its own life. Respect, caution, and ritual keep people safe from what cannot be fully understood. Before bed, families follow tiny rituals that seem odd at first, but carry deep meaning. A broom placed across a doorway to keep wandering souls away. Shoes lined neatly beside the bed so no one rises into darkness disoriented. A cup of water set near the hearth for peaceful spirits who wander at night. These gestures are not done out of fear, but out of tradition. They remind people that the night is shared, with memories, with ancestors, with unseen presences that guard or guide. As you look across the village, every home grows still. Fires dim, lanterns fade. The world settles into a deep, comforting quiet, the kind of quiet found only in places untouched by modern noise, the kind that feels like a blanket drawn up to the chin. With the last of the day slipping away, you sense how the rules of the spirit, the prayers, the rituals, the gentle superstitions, weave together to create a calm heavier than sleep itself. A calm that settles into your bones. A calm that makes the night feel safe. And in that silence, the village finally rests. As the last thin streaks of color fade from the sky, the night deepens and settles over the village. Everything slows almost imperceptibly. Footsteps stretch into longer pauses. Voices thin out until they disappear entirely. It's the kind of quiet that feels older than the buildings, older than the fields. A quiet that has lived here long before you arrived. A lamp glows behind a cottage window, then dims. Someone whispers a good-night prayer. A door closes with a careful hand, as if not to disturb the stillness settling across the land. Inside each home, families fold away the final tasks of the day. A mother straightens a wool blanket. A father checks the shutters one last time. Children place wooden toys beside their beds, exactly where they'll be in the morning. Even these simple movements follow a familiar rhythm. The smoothing of blankets, the covering of the fire, the closing of a latch. These gestures carry a timeless peace, as though the night itself is watching and approving. When people finally settle into bed, their sleeping spaces are humble but comforting. Straw mattresses softened by linen, wool blankets with years of warmth woven into their threads. Someone shifts, and the straw rustles softly beneath them. There is no hurry to sleep, yet no reason to stay awake. The darkness wraps each cottage like a shelter of its own. Families breathe together in the same room, warmth shared through closeness. In some homes, a single candle remains lit for a little while longer. Its small flame flickers gently, painting soft shapes across the walls. A grandmother might sit near it, mending a sleeve or soothing a restless child. But the flame will fade soon. Candles are precious here, saved for moments that truly require their light. The glow stretches, thins, then finally dims as the wick burns low. The room grows darker, but not colder. Night is not feared, it's understood. Outside, the entire village seems to breathe in unison. Roofs sit still beneath the night sky. Smoke from resting hearths curls into the air in slow, sleepy spirals. The fields lie quiet beyond the cottages, blanketed by cool night air. Even the animals have settled. Sheep gathered close, horses lowering their heads, dogs curled beside doorsteps. A deep, communal rest settles over everything, like a shared agreement among all living things. One of the only figures still awake is the night watchman. He walks the lanes at a careful, steady pace. He isn't searching for trouble. Trouble rarely visits this hour. Instead, he checks that each door is secured, glances at chimneys to be sure no sparks rise too high, and listens to the soft breaths of a resting village. His lantern swings at his side, casting a dim circle of gold around his feet. It's a lonely duty, but he carries it calmly. He knows every corner of these paths, every quiet sound the village makes when it settles to sleep. Beyond the village gate stretch the open fields. At night, they become vast and silent, long rolls of dark grass touched only by the wind. Distant hills rest under pale moonlight, their shapes softened into gentle silhouettes. People rarely wander past the gate after dark, not out of fear, but out of respect. The land is wide, the night is deep, and there's an unspoken understanding that nighttime belongs to the world itself. As the night grows stiller, the village feels suspended between one breath and the next. The sounds of the day, chatter, tools, footsteps, dissolve into a silence so complete it feels almost sacred. You stand there for a while, feeling the quiet settle around you like a warm cloak. The rules of the day no longer matter. The hierarchies, the tasks, the noise, all of it drifts away as the village sleeps beneath the stars. The quiet becomes a gentle companion. The darkness becomes soft. And for a little while, the whole world feels perfectly, beautifully still. As midnight approaches, no one in the village marks the exact moment. There are no clocks, no chimes, no numbers to measure it. Time is felt, not counted. And you feel it now, a deeper shade of night settling across rooftops and fields like a soft blanket. The sky has turned into a wide ocean of dark blue. Stars shimmer with a clarity you rarely see in modern skies. They seem closer somehow, as if you could reach up and touch their cold light with your fingertips. without lamps, without engines, without distant hums or glowing screens. The night has its own voice, a quiet, steady pulse, the faint rustle of thatched roofs relaxing, a soft creak from old wood shifting its weight, a distant animal stirring, then settling again. It is a world comfortable with darkness, a world that knows how to sleep deeply, a world that feels unhurried, unconcerned with the passing of time. Inside the cottages, the last embers of hearths glow like tiny red stars. They flicker weakly under layers of ash, fading with each passing minute. Families trust these small glows to guard them through the night, not as flames, but as symbols of warmth waiting for morning. If an ember dims completely, someone stirs in their sleep, sensing the shift in temperature. But even that movement is slow and gentle. Soon, the ember brightens again with the faintest breath of air, and all returns to stillness. Walking down the narrow lanes, the stillness feels almost overwhelming. Houses lean slightly toward each other, as if sharing secrets in the dark. Fences cast long shadows. Tools lie exactly where they were left, waiting for the hands that will not touch them until sunrise. The quiet is not empty. It is full of years, full of memories, full of the soft breath of generations who have lived and slept under these same wooden beams. The animals sleep in their own rhythms. Chickens settle high on their perches, feathers puffed against the coolness. Sheep rest close together, a mound of wool rising and falling with their breathing. Dogs curl into tight circles near the doors they guard even in dreams. You hear a horse stamp lightly, as if shifting some dream aside, then fall still again. Even the animals understand the peace of night. Beyond the village lies the border between the familiar and the wild. The forest stands dark and deep, its trees holding shadows thicker than the ones in the lanes. By day, people gather firewood and forage berries there. But at midnight, the forest feels ancient, almost enchanted. Villagers do not enter it after dark, not out of fear, out of respect. The trees have their own lives at night, their own quiet gatherings, their own secrets. The forest is left untouched until the morning returns. As the night deepens toward its stillest hours, you sense a gentle protection in the air. Shadows soften around door frames. Moonlight rests lightly on rooftops. Even the cold feels patient, not harsh. Nothing is demanded, nothing is expected. The whole world seems paused, suspended in a moment meant only for rest. And in that quiet, time loosens its grip, stretching into a soft, endless calm, until it feels like there is no beginning or end, only peace. Night deepens slowly, almost reverently. The darkness no longer feels like an absence of light, but a soft velvet cloth spread gently across the land. Every shape softens beneath it. Roof lines blur, the edges of cottages dissolve into shadows. Even the branches of the trees seem to lower themselves, leaning closer to the earth as if settling into sleep. The air grows cooler in a way that is not abrupt, but gradual, a steady, comforting descent. You can feel the world exhale, long and slow, as if the village itself has finally allowed its shoulders to relax. Nothing moves quickly now. The village has no restlessness in these hours. There are no carts creaking over stone, no footsteps hurrying with purpose, no urgent voices drifting across the lanes. The pace of the world has slowed to the rhythm of a heartbeat half asleep. You walk past a cottage where faint light seeps through a wooden shutter. Inside, a family sleeps side by side on straw mattresses. You imagine the gentle rise and fall of their breathing, synchronized, tranquil, soft enough that it barely disturbs the air above them. Even in dreams, their bodies follow the traditions of the land, calm, steady, humble. As you turn a corner, you see the watchman again. His lantern glows faintly, casting a pool of dim golden light that touches the road in slow-moving elliptical shapes. His steps are unhurried, almost meditative. He knows these hours belong to patience, not vigilance. He stops now and then, lifting the lantern higher to check a shutter or examine a corner where a shadow seems thicker than the rest. But there is no alarm in his movements, only familiarity, a bond between a man and a village he has walked through 1,000 times. You sense this is his favorite hour, the moment when the village trusts him completely, when the weight of his duty becomes feather light in the calm. You glance upward and see the sky open wide above you. Without the haze of modern lights, the stars appear shockingly bright, like small white embers resting on a giant black tapestry. Some twinkle faintly, some hold still, as if carved into the heavens. The villagers believe some of these stars are souls of ancestors watching over them. Others believe they are lanterns carried by angels wandering the night sky, and some simply see them as markers of time, guiding travelers and shepherds until morning returns. The longer you look, the more your thoughts slow, the more your breathing deepens. The stars do not rush, they do not flicker with urgency. They simply exist, steady, ancient, comforting. You walk beyond the last row of cottages until the land opens into wide fields. The crops are low now, resting beneath the nighttime chill. Each leaf and stalk remains perfectly still, absorbing the quiet, storing it like secret nourishment. There is a profound silence here, a silence so deep it feels almost physical. It rests gently on your shoulders. It calms your heartbeat. It steadies your thoughts. The village seems far away now, yet its warmth lingers behind you like a memory. In the distance, a single owl glides across the sky, its wings barely moving, its flight nearly silent. It disappears into the line of trees with a grace that makes the night feel even more timeless. You return slowly toward the village, your steps softened by the loose earth beneath you. These hours, the ones just before dawn, are said to hold stories, old stories, stories whispered by the land itself. Villagers say that if you listen closely, you can sometimes hear the earth remembering, the way it shifts gently beneath the weight of centuries, the way the wind carries echoes of forgotten songs, forgotten footsteps, forgotten prayers. The night carries all of it in silence, a stillness heavy with history yet light with peace. As you walk back into the heart of the village, everything feels softer than before. The houses, the dirt paths, the fences, all of it seems wrapped in a serene hush. You are surrounded by a stillness so complete it feels sacred. A stillness that makes your eyelids heavier, your thoughts slower, your breath deeper. And for this moment, in this forgotten hour of the medieval night, you feel held by the world, quietly, peacefully, like a guest welcomed into a centuries-old dream. Midnight has long passed, and the village has entered the deepest layer of stillness. No footsteps, no murmurs through thin walls, no flicker of candlelight behind shutters. It is a moment where silence doesn't just fill the village, it becomes the village. Every home seems to sink slightly into the earth, as though relaxing into the softness of night. The rooftops appear almost weightless against the sky. The pathways, so full of life during the day, now lie untouched and undisturbed, like gentle lines drawn in the dark. Inside these silent homes, dreams unfold slowly. A child turns in his sleep, chasing something pleasant through warm fields of summer. A shepherd dreams of soft wool and rolling hills. A mother dreams of her younger days, when the world seemed larger and her steps lighter. No one speaks of their dreams here, but everyone carries them. Dreams are simple companions in a life shaped by rules and routines. At night, even the strictest rules soften, allowing minds to wander into places daylight never sees. The night watchman continues his slow path, though his pace has slowed even more. Every so often, he pauses and simply listens. Not for danger. The village rarely knows danger. He listens to the night song of the world, a soft sigh of wind against wood, a distant flutter of wings, the gentle settling of cooling stone. He breathes deeply, the kind of breath that only emerges in the deepest hours of the night. A breath that mixes with the cold air and drifts upward like a small cloud of warmth in an otherwise chilled world. Along the edges of cottages, shadows stretch like soft silhouettes. They move with the moonlight, shifting shapes as clouds pass lazily overhead. Nothing here moves quickly, not even the shadows. Everything drifts. There is a gentleness to these movements, as though the night itself is careful not to disturb the sleep of the villagers. Even the darkness seems to walk on quiet feet. Past the village, the forest stands in a solemn hush. Trees rise like tall guardians, their branches interwoven like an ancient cathedral roof. During the day, these woods might seem ordinary, but at night, they feel alive in a different way. If you stand near the edge long enough, you begin to sense subtle rhythms. The gentle sway of needles in the high branches, the muted rustle of leaves settling after a passing breeze, the nearly silent movements of small animals finding warm places to hide. Some villagers believe the forest watches over them at night. Others whisper that the forest keeps its own secrets, too old to be understood, too soft to be feared. Above all this rests the quiet tapestry of stars. They look sharper now, as though the world has paused long enough for you to truly see them. Each star holds steady, its light unchanged by centuries. Travelers once used these stars to cross valleys, mountains, and seas. Shepherds used them to guide flocks under moonless nights. And villagers simply admired them, a reminder that even in the stillness of deep night, the world above continues its slow, eternal turning. As the hours creep forward, the air grows colder. It slips gently into cracks between stones, drifts through tiny spaces beneath doors, settles over the fields like a quiet mist. But it is not a cruel cold. It is soft and crisp, the kind that invites deeper rest beneath wool blankets. You can almost feel the entire village instinctively pull blankets closer, bodies shifting just slightly, not waking, not stirring, just adjusting, following an old instinct shaped through countless winters. These late night hours are the closest the village ever comes to complete stillness, a kind of pause written into the rhythm of life. Dawn is not here yet, but it is approaching slowly, inching across the sky. And as the village rests in this deep, fragile silence, you feel yourself settling too, your thoughts loosening, your breathing slowing, your mind drifting gently with the timeless peace of 1,000 sleeping nights. The night does not vanish suddenly here. Instead, it moves slowly, like a tide that rises so gently you hardly notice it happening. Shadows drift from one home to another, stretching, lengthening, then softening again. The darkness thins, but only by the slightest degree. So slight, it feels more like imagination than change. The village rests beneath this slow tide, floating peacefully in a sea of silence. Time has dissolved into something fluid, something without edges. Inside the cottages, dreams are beginning to fade. They retreat quietly, like birds leaving a branch at dawn. A child's hand relaxes. Someone lets out a long, soft breath. A sleeping dog shifts in its corner, pressing its paws into the straw before sinking deeper into rest. Even in sleep, there is a sense of order, as though everyone in the village breathes to the same rhythm, a shared lullaby woven through centuries of nights just like this one. In many homes, the hearth holds the barest hint of warmth. Ashes settle like grey feathers over the embers, protecting what remains of yesterday's fire. People trust this faint glow, not as a source of heat, but as a small guardian of the night. You can almost picture a sleeping family near it. Blankets drawn up high, faces relaxed, the faint warmth brushing their cheeks. Tomorrow morning, they'll coax those embers back to life, starting the cycle anew. But for now, the fire is content to simply rest. If you walk through the village at this hour, you find the paths are almost invisible. They fade into darkness, turning into soft outlines sketched faintly by moonlight. Each path leads somewhere familiar, to a barn, a well, a neighbor's door. Yet in the night, each path feels like a gentle invitation rather than a direction. You walk slowly, as though the ground itself encourages unhurried steps. There is no need to rush. The night has more than enough time to offer. Beyond the cottages, the fields open wide once more. The crops are still sleeping beneath the cool weight of the night, their leaves gathering tiny droplets of dew. When the wind moves through them, it is not a push but a whisper, a subtle shift that carries the scent of soil and distant pine. You stand in the fields for a moment, feeling the land breathe. The stillness is so complete it feels almost holy. A quiet that has settled here for hundreds of years. A quiet that outlasts any single moment. The animals rest deeply now. Sheep lie close together, forming soft hills of wool. Cows breathe in long, steady rhythms, their bodies rising and falling like slow waves. Chickens remain perfectly still, perched in tidy rows. Even the insects have grown silent. The whole world has taken on the same cadence, a deep, unbroken calm. Far at the edge of the horizon, where night meets earth in a straight dark line, you notice the faintest change, a softening, a quiet lifting of darkness. Not light yet, just the promise of it. The villagers will not wake for some time, but the world senses what is coming. The air grows a touch colder, as if pulling a blanket tighter before morning arrives. Leaves settle in their final positions before the day begins. The sky prepares itself with patient care. These are the moments when everything feels suspended. The final breath before morning, the gentle pause between night and day. You stand in the middle of the village and feel it all at once. The history, the silence, the sleeping families, the old rules woven through every home. And in this stillness, with the night stretched thin around you, you feel as though the world has wrapped you in its arms, holding you gently, waiting with you for the first quiet note of dawn. There is a moment in the deepest part of night when the sky begins to shift without anyone noticing. It doesn't brighten, not yet, but the darkness grows thinner, as if the night itself is quietly stepping back to make room for the coming day. You look up, and the stars seem a little softer at the edges, their sharpness fading into the faintest haze. The constellations remain, but they appear sleepier, as though they too are preparing to rest. The cottages are silent now, wrapped in layers of thatched roofs and wool blankets pulled high. Inside, families breathe in steady patterns, each breath melding into the next. These breaths seem to trickle through the walls, creating a rhythm that moves through the entire village. You sense the heaviness of deep sleep in the air. It lingers like warm mist inside each home, a softness that makes even the cold stones feel gentle. The hearths, once alive with flames hours ago, now hold small patches of glowing embers. They shine faintly beneath a powder of ash. Some glow bright enough to be noticed. Others are so subtle you must imagine leaning closer just to sense their warmth. These embers are not just heat. They are a memory of yesterday's life, yesterday's meals, yesterday's stories told beside the fire. They will be revived at dawn, but for now they simply rest, pulsing slowly like sleepy hearts. In the barns and stables, animals drift in and out of light dreams. Horses shift their weight, hooves brushing gently against the straw. Sheep breathe warm clouds into the air. A cow flicks an ear without waking, sensing only the whisper of a passing breeze. Nothing cries out, nothing panics. Even the creatures who rely on instinct recognize the peace of these hours. They surrender to it fully. Near the entrance to the village stands the wooden gate, tall and sturdy, though simple in design. In full daylight, it looks ordinary. But now, under the thinning night, it feels almost ceremonial, like the edge of a world separated from whatever lies beyond. The gate has been closed since evening, not locked, but watched. Its presence brings a sense of security to every sleeping person, a promise that the darkness beyond will wait patiently until morning before it crosses into village life again. At the edge of the fields, the forest stands perfectly still. The trees seem taller in the pre-dawn hour. Their branches rest quietly, their trunks unmoving, as though the forest itself is holding its breath. Villagers say the forest sleeps too, not with dreams, but with memory. It remembers every footstep taken during the day, every voice that called out between the trees, every story told near the edge of its shadow. And at night, it keeps those memories close. On the grass, dew begins to appear, not suddenly, but gradually, as tiny drops of moisture slip onto each blade. The dew collects slowly, decorating the dark fields with delicate beads of silver. If you look long enough, you can almost see each droplet forming, heavy with the reflections of moonlight. Dew is the night's quiet work, done while the world sleeps. The horizon remains dark, but there is a subtle gentleness now, the same way a candle glows a little brighter before finally burning out. Night is holding on, not out of reluctance, but out of patience. It knows dawn is coming, but it doesn't rush to leave. You stand at the heart of the village and feel the last embrace of darkness settle around you. It is peaceful, it is ancient, it is protective. a blanket drawn over the world one final time before morning arrives. And under that blanket, the village sleeps just a little deeper, for just a little longer. As the night lingers in its final stretch, you begin to understand something unspoken. The daytime rules you learned are only half the story. When darkness settles, another set of rules quietly takes their place. Rules not written in any book. Rules not spoken loudly. Rules passed through generations like soft warnings. The night may be peaceful, but it is not without order. And that order, too, must be followed. In these hours, you notice that no villager wanders the lanes simply to wander. To walk at night without reason is considered strange, even suspicious. People step outside only when necessary, to check animals, to retrieve water, to answer a quiet knock, to tend a fading ember. Night is a time for rest, and straying from that purpose feels almost like breaking an unwritten promise shared by the entire community. Another rule reveals itself when you pass near a row of homes. Every door has been pulled shut with remarkable gentleness. Not slammed, not forced. Closed carefully, intentionally. To slam a door at night is considered a breach of peace, a disturbance not just of sleep, but of the village's harmony. Even when the wind presses hard against the wood, people hold their doors with steady hands, easing them into place like a secret being kept safe. The villagers follow a strict rule regarding fire. No flame, no spark, no sudden flare of light is allowed after a certain hour, unless absolutely necessary. Fire is life in the day, but danger at night. A single ember slipping onto straw could awaken the entire village to chaos. So flames are smothered, lanterns are hooded, and even torches are avoided. The night is meant to be dark, and the village treats that darkness with respect. As you listen closely, you realize something else. Even those who are awake speak only in whispers. A conversation between two farmers heading to check on livestock barely rises above the breeze. A mother soothing a restless child murmurs as softly as rain touching leaves. The rule is simple. Loudness belongs to the day. Night belongs to stillness. To break that stillness without cause is seen not as rude, but as deeply unnatural. In one cottage, you notice a woman carefully covering a bucket of water before she goes to bed. This is a rule followed by nearly everyone. Water left uncovered at night is believed to invite illness, insects, or misfortune. So lids are placed on buckets. Cloths are laid over pitchers. Wells are covered with wooden slabs. It is a tiny ritual, but one done with quiet devotion. A rule born long before explanations existed, upheld simply because generations trusted it. Perhaps the most symbolic of the night rules is this. People believe they should be inside their homes when dawn first touches the village, not outside waiting for it, not walking toward it, but indoors, letting the light come to them. Dawn is considered a blessing, a gentle gift, and gifts are meant to be received with humility. So villagers sleep a little longer, or lie quietly awake in the softness of early morning, allowing the first trace of day to enter their homes before they step into the world. And as you stand there in the dark, learning these quiet rules, you can feel how deeply they shape the life of the village. Rules for safety, for harmony, for peace. Rules that make the night not just a stretch of darkness, but a sacred, beautifully ordered part of life. As the darkness thins, like a cloth being lifted veil by veil, dawn dawn begins its slow arrival. The world still sleeps, but the first light carries its own quiet laws, rules that shape the gentle beginning of the day. Unlike night, dawn does not ask for silence, but it demands respect, a certain order, a patience that mirrors the soft pace of the rising sun. The light must be greeted correctly, and life must begin in the proper way. As the horizon softens, villagers know better than to rush outside or interrupt the first glow of morning. Dawn belongs to the world, not to people. The rule is simple. Let the light arrive first. Families lie awake quietly, watching faint beams slip through the cracks of wooden shutters. Some bow their heads, others breathe slowly, syncing themselves with the earth. Dawn has its own rhythm, and the village follows it. When the light finally touches the cottages, the hearths begin to awaken. Fires are not relit with haste. The rule is to coax the embers with intention. Slow breaths, careful hands, gratitude for warmth returning. The mother or eldest child crouches beside the hearth, guiding the faint glow into a small flame. It is almost ceremonial, a symbolic welcome to the new day. Another rule guides the morning. Water must be drawn from the well before the sun rises above the roofs. Water collected after full sunrise is believed to lose some of its freshness. So villagers step quietly toward the well, while the world is still blue with early light. Buckets are lowered and lifted in silence. Morning water is treated with the same reverence as a blessing. There is also an unspoken rule within each home. No complaining before the first meal. Dawn is meant to remain gentle, free from burdens or frustration. Complaints about the cold, the aches, the chores ahead, these are saved for later. Instead, people share soft greetings, small nods, slow movements. The morning keeps its peace until bread has been eaten. Before stepping outside, many pause at the doorway. A hand touches the wooden frame, a gesture so humble it might be missed. This small ritual acknowledges the home that sheltered them through the night and honors the threshold between safety and duty. It gives shape to the beginning of the day. Once the village begins to brighten, another rule comes into focus. Elders step outside first. This is not tradition alone. It is respect. Their presence in the early quiet grounds the morning, tying together generations of sunrise after sunrise. You see them step out slowly, leaning on sticks, stretching their backs, lifting their faces to the pale gold light. Younger villagers wait a moment longer, allowing them this sacred first embrace of the day. And then, finally, morning begins. Fires glow again. Water has been gathered. Silence has been honored. Elders have greeted the new light. Only when these quiet rules are observed does the village return to movement. The day may now begin. As the morning settles fully into the village, movement returns in the same steady rhythm it has followed for generations. Nothing begins in haste. Nothing is decided randomly. Each household knows its order, its duties, and its sequence. Morning here is not chaos. It is tradition in motion, unfolding exactly as it has for centuries. A simple but strict rule begins the day. Sweep before you speak. Every home, no matter how small, starts by sweeping the threshold, the floor, and even the patch of earth just outside the door. This is more than tidiness. It is a symbolic clearing of yesterday, brushing away old dust, old worries, old thoughts. Only after this quiet ritual does the real day begin. Another rule guides the morning with equal weight. Animals come before people. Before anyone eats, the animals are tended. Cows are milked before children receive their first piece of bread. Chickens are checked before the family drinks water. Horses are watered before anyone else takes a sip. These creatures make survival possible, and caring for them first is seen as a mark of gratitude as much as necessity. As villagers dress, another rule takes form. No one steps outside in sleep clothes. Work clothes must be worn, and they must be practical. Rough wool, patched linen, garments shaped by years of use. Clothing signals readiness. Anyone lingering too long in nightclothes would be seen as lazy or unprepared for the responsibilities ahead. The judgment is gentle but real. The angle of the morning sun decides the next tasks. Fields facing east are tended before fields facing west. Tools left outside are checked while the light is still cool. Laundry, if done today, must be scrubbed while dew still clings to the fabric. In this world, the sun is a silent overseer, and villagers follow its guidance without question. Season, too, becomes a rule. Summer demands earlier labor, sometimes before the sun lifts above the horizon. Winter allows slower beginnings, though the work stretches longer into the day. Planting, repairing, gathering wood, tending animals, all are dictated by the time of year. These rhythms are inherited wisdom, shaped by those who lived close to the land long before. There is also a rule understood by all ages. Younger bodies take on the heavier work, lifting buckets of water, turning soil, carrying grain. These tasks fall to youth. Elders guide, teach, supervise, and pass down knowledge. Younger villagers bear the physical strain. It is not a punishment, but a shared understanding of how generations support one another. By the time morning is fully awake, the first chores of the day are complete. Hearths burn with steady flames. Animals are fed and moving. Tools are gathered and ready. The village hums with gentle purpose, unrushed, unforced, simply aligned with the pulse of life. The rules of morning have been followed, and with them, the day settles into its quiet, deliberate rhythm, one careful step at a time. As the morning matures, the sun begins its slow climb toward the highest point in the sky. Its warmth spreads across rooftops, along fences, and over the well-worn earth beneath your feet. Midday may still be hours away, but villagers already feel its approach. The middle of the day holds a certain gravity, and with that gravity comes rules that guide every gesture. The sun is not just light here. It is order. It is hierarchy. It is law. Villagers know that the sun's position decides which tasks belong where. As it rises higher, heavier labor must pause and shift into lighter duties. Fields that rested in the shade become the focus. Tools too hot to touch are wrapped in cloth or quietly set aside. No one challenges the sun's command. Working against it invites exhaustion, and exhaustion threatens survival. So villagers adjust their pace with quiet wisdom, shifting tasks as shadows move. As the day grows brighter, hierarchy reveals itself. Every person knows their place. Lords remain near their estates. Farmers remain in their fields. Craftsmen gather near their workshops. Servants move with purpose, carrying baskets, tools, and water in familiar patterns. It is not chaotic. It is choreographed. Each role is shaped by birth, expectation, and duty. The sun sees all of it, and villagers move as though they feel its watchful presence. As midday approaches, appetites awaken, but food is never taken freely. Most villagers must wait for permission from a head of household, a steward, or a master. Eating without approval is considered disrespectful, even disorderly. Meals are not simply breaks. They are structured moments, markers of rank and control. When the sun grows stronger, shade becomes precious. The rule is simple. Elders sit in the shade first. Younger villagers wait or find their own small patches of relief. No one argues this. Elders carry memories of harsher winters, hotter summers, and years when survival depended on knowledge. They still hold. Shade is given to them as an honor. During the brightest hours, another expectation settles over the village. No idle hands under the sun. Even those without assigned tasks find something to do. Mending tools, weaving, sorting grain, sweeping, feeding animals, gathering firewood, tending children. Idleness is believed to invite misfortune. The sun expects effort. The land expects effort. And so villagers move with quiet purpose, filling every moment with gentle, useful labor. A final rule shapes the morning's conversations. Until the sun reaches its peak, no one speaks ill of anyone. Complaints, arguments, and gossip are avoided. Words spoken before noon are believed to carry weight, shaping the day in unseen ways. So frustrations are held back, tempers softened, and disagreements postponed until the sun sits directly overhead. As the village moves through these hours, life feels steady and predictable. The day unfolds the same way it has for generations, with respect for the sun, with attention to structure, with obedience to rules that guide the community like an invisible hand. The heat of midday grows closer, and with it, the village prepares to follow a new set of rules. Rules for the hottest, brightest, and most demanding part of the day. The sun climbs higher and higher until it sits almost directly above the village, its light spreading without mercy across roofs, fields, and narrow trodden paths. Midday arrives not suddenly, but gradually, with a growing intensity that settles over everything like a bright, heavy blanket. This is the hour when rules matter most, when the heat decides not only how work must be done, but how people must behave. When the sun stands at its peak, heavy tasks must pause. No one lifts large sacks of grain or bends over long rows of crops for too long. No one drags heavy buckets from distant wells. Midday becomes a moment of enforced caution. If someone pushes too hard, an elder will correct them, not in anger, but in fear of the stories told every summer about those who collapsed under the high sun. Tools, too, must be sheltered. The heat can warp wood, crack leather, or loosen iron, and villagers understand this well. So shovels are leaned inside barns, axes are tucked beneath shade, and buckets or baskets are placed under eaves. Leaving a tool in open sunlight is considered careless, a sign of disrespect toward the craft and the survival it supports. The village oven, normally busy in the early hours, falls silent now. Bread is not baked during the hottest moment of the day. The combined heat of sun and oven can ruin dough, causing it to rise too fast or dry into a hard crust. So bakers pause, letting the dough rest while the village does the same. As the sun burns brighter, villagers grow quieter. Custom discourages loud voices, arguments, or shouts at midday. Some believe the heat stirs spirits of the land, easily angered by raised voices. Others simply follow the habit because it preserves peace. Conversations soften, words become fewer, and the village moves through the hour with quiet respect. When it is time to eat the midday meal, it is rarely done alone. Families gather beneath eaves or trees. Workers in the fields sit together in small circles. Travelers passing through may be offered a share. To eat alone at noon is unusual, almost unsettling. Sharing food at the peak of the day strengthens the ties that protect the village. Another rule guides the hottest hour. Shade must be respected. If someone stands in a patch of shadow first, that shade belongs to them. Others may join, but only with sensitivity. Shade is precious under the high sun, and stepping into someone's cool refuge without permission is seen as an intrusion. Villagers share it, rotate it, and ensure no one remains exposed for too long. Under the weight of midday, the pace becomes almost dreamlike. Movements slow, conversations fall into gentle murmurs. The sun presses down like a quiet reminder to pause. Midday rules are not burdens. They are guardians, shaping caution, community, and rest. And when the sun finally begins its slow descent, these rules loosen, giving way to the gentler rhythms of afternoon. After the harshness of midday, the sun finally begins to tilt westward. Its heat softens, the light cools, and shadows stretch longer across the village. The shift is subtle, but everyone feels it. Afternoon carries its own rules, gentler than the demands of midday, but still deeply respected. The village breathes again, and relief settles over the land like a cool cloth. When the sun softens, villagers do not return to heavy labor all at once. They ease back into the rhythm of work. Tools are inspected first. Water is sipped. Hands are stretched. A few soft words are exchanged. Only after this simple ritual does the true work continue. The body must transition carefully from rest to effort. As the afternoon unfolds, villagers choose tasks based on how the sunlight falls. Fields that were blistering a few hours ago are now more forgiving. Workshops that were too hot to enter become usable again. shade moves across the village like a guiding hand, showing people what must be done next. Work follows the sun, not the other way around. Afternoon is also the time when elders guide the pace. Their voices do not rise, but their presence shapes the rhythm of the day. When an elder suggests slowing down, villagers listen. When an elder points to a task, younger hands move without hesitation. The entire afternoon seems anchored to the steady movements of those who have seen many seasons. This is also when repairs must be made. Tools chipped in the morning are sharpened now. Handles splintered by use are wrapped or replaced. Clothing torn during work is mended carefully. The village understands that tools are the extensions of their bodies, and that harvests tomorrow depend on repairs today. A quiet superstition guides another habit. Villagers avoid looking directly toward the west. Some believe the brightness weakens the eyes. Others say it disrespects the spirits of the fading day. So glances stay low or angle toward the ground, the work, or the fields. The west is acknowledged gently, never stared at. As shadows grow longer, the church bell rings once in the distance. Its sound is soft and steady, marking the shift from midday labor to afternoon tasks. It reminds villagers to drink water, to change duties, or simply to pause for a breath. The bell is like a gentle hand turning the page of the day. And finally, as afternoon deepens, the village prepares for evening slowly. Animals are checked early. Tools are returned bit by bit. Ingredients for supper are gathered without rush. Evening is not meant to arrive suddenly. It is meant to be eased into with care. Under the soft gold of the descending sun, the village follows these quiet rules with peaceful devotion, keeping a rhythm older than memory itself. The long day has finally come to its end. The village settles once more, shadows stretching like soft threads along the ground, weaving the cottages and fields into one gently darkened tapestry. The sun has dipped beneath the horizon, leaving only a quiet glow behind, a last whisper of light before the night takes its place. You've walked through every rule, every ritual, every ancient custom that shaped the lives of the people here. And now, as the final traces of daylight dissolve, those rules grow softer, quieter, almost transparent, like breath fading into cool air. The village exhales as the first true darkness settles. Work tools rest where they were placed. Smoke rises lazily from chimneys. Animals tuck themselves in their shelters. Every part of the world slows into a gentle lull. Nothing rushes here. Nothing pulls at your attention. Everything becomes simple. A soft rhythm you can feel deep in your chest. As you walk one last time through the narrow lanes, the roads feel different than they did during the day. Not empty, just peaceful. Resting. Each step you imagine feels lighter. The earth is cool. The air is steady. Even the stones seem tired in a comforting way, as though they too look forward to the coming night. You sense that you're not leaving the village. You're simply easing into a quieter part of it. One by one, windows dim until they become soft squares of fading gold. The hush inside each home spreads outward. You can almost feel blankets being tucked, breath settling, heart slowing. The village draws the curtains of sleep, and every family sinks into the comfort of another night's rest. All the strict rules you have followed through the day begin to loosen now. The rules of dawn, the rules of labor, the rules of hierarchy, the rules of night. One by one, they drift away from you like autumn leaves, caught in a gentle breeze. For the first time, you feel weightless, unburdened, as though nothing is expected of you now, except to simply rest. The edges of the cottages soften until they seem to blur into the night. The fences look less sharp. The shadows melt gently into one another. The world feels like it is folding itself into a quilt of darkness, warm and comforting. Even the air grows thicker with calm, inviting your thoughts to drift away. Imagine yourself walking slowly through the village. The space between each step stretches. The night welcomes every footfall with gratitude. You don't need to hurry. You don't need to decide anything. There is nowhere you must be. Each slow step feels like a small surrender to rest. Voices from the day grow faint. The chatter of the marketplace, the calls across the fields, the laughter shared between families. They drift farther and farther away, fading like echoes swallowed by distance. Only the soft memory of them remains, wrapped in warmth rather than noise. Lanterns hanging outside cottages burn lower with each moment, their flames growing small, like tiny suns preparing for sleep. You watch them flicker, flutter, and then finally rest. As each one fades, the village becomes gentler, quieter, more peaceful than before. You look up to see the night sky stretching endlessly above you. Stars shimmer softly, not demanding your attention, but offering calm. They watch, patient and silent. The sky feels like a blanket of eternity, offering you a sense of being held, safe, protected, soothed. The breeze softens. The trees still themselves. Even the earth feels quieter, as though trying not to disturb the night. You feel everything inside you matching that stillness. Your breath slows. Your thoughts drift. Your body becomes heavy in the most comforting way, settling deeper into rest. Every cottage has fallen silent now. The last ember in the hearth glows faintly, like a tiny heartbeat. Outside, the fields rest under the moon's gentle silver. You drift with the village, letting its slowness wrap around you. There is nothing left to understand, nothing left to obey, nothing left to remember. Only calm. All the strange rules that shaped life in this world. Rules of food, rules of clothes, rules of dawn, rules of night, dissolve now into softness. They become quiet stories, drifting somewhere far from your mind. What remains is warmth, stillness, peace. You imagine yourself taking one last slow walk through the village. The houses rest, the fields breathe. The night air feels like velvet against your skin. Nothing calls to you. Nothing asks for your attention. The world simply walks beside you, gently guiding you toward rest. Soon, even the images of the village begin to fade. The cottages soften until they disappear. The fields become a distant memory. The stars blur into a gentle haze. You are left in a warm, endless quiet. Let your thoughts settle like dust on still water. Let your breath become slow and easy. Let your mind drift into the soft darkness. The rules of the medieval world have faded, and now, so can you. Rest deeply, sleep peacefully. Let the night hold you as gently as it held them.